Hi, I'm Sue. Thank you for joining me for this little show and tell and how to. This mini class will give you a peek into my new course, Artful Wedding Personals, but it will also show you the versatility of my favorite new idea. So I made that collection for busy wedding florists and those that want to elevate their bouquet and personal flower work. This collection in particular combines my latest obsession, streamlined wire work, with master floristry techniques and an artful focus, all delivered in an approachable, accessible way. My goal is to allow you to make more dynamic, skillful bouquets, corsages, boutonnieres, crowns, and the most popular wedding wearables right away. The next idea I'm going to share with you just may transform how you approach your wearables. I'm so happy to share this idea with you, so let's dive right in. So this idea for the wireframe came when I was tasked to make prom flowers for my daughter and her friends, and I thought I would just make them glued corsages, really beautiful and artful. But I ended up creating this little wire structure and armature to support all of the flowers. And it occurred to me that this is a way to make really durable, reliable wearables, but not compromising on style and kind of the diamonism of them. So let me show you this little frame, and then I'll show you a couple ways you can stretch it to make all sorts of incredible pieces. So you'll need jewelry wire. This is a 20 gauge gold tone jewelry wire. I like the 20 gauge a little bit more than the lighter gauges because you can support heavier flowers. So then you decide how long, how large you want your piece to be, and you cut a number of these wires. So I'll show you a very flexible piece that I will design as a wrist corsage. So I have 6 wires. And the longest one is about 9 inches and the shortest is about 6 inches. I'll grab them in the center, and then I want to create a waist, a twisted waist in the center. I usually use a couple pairs of pliers to get a nice firm twist. So twisting them opposite of each other to really combine the wires and kind of fuse them together. And then this little twisted waist makes this piece a solid armature. From here, I can style these arms however I like, and I simply thread my flowers on to create my corsage. So let's do that very quickly. So I can use tight little flowers like spray roses, pretty traditional go-to for corsages. Little miniature carnations are another favorite. Let's take a few of these in different sizes. I'll use a gladiola floret. I'll use a little tight immature tulip. And how about a lisianthus as a focal flower? So I have some options here. So first I work with my largest flowers, and I set those on my smallest wires, my shortest wires, and they're added to the more central part of the wireframe. From here, I cut off any excess wire, and to affix the flower to the frame, I take my needle nose plier and make a U with the end of that hook and tuck it back into the face of the flower to really attach it, to hold it in place. So there's my primary focal flower. And then let's use the spray roses as kind of secondary focal flowers. So I'm threading them right onto the wire. When I get it in the position that I like, I trim off any excess wire and then make the U-hook again. So I have a spray rose here. Let's trace across and do one opposite. You can make these very traditional looking or very artful with lots of negative space. There's a lot of freedom and control. So this one's kind of floating in midair. Next, let's lay in the carnations. I can thread several onto one wire, or one bloom can go on each wire. It's up to you. So let's put 2 carnations on this single wire so you can see how that looks. Cut off the excess. So now the little tulip, the flower head itself is strong and able to be threaded on and will last well. The stem of the tulip is a little bit hard to thread, so I cut it relatively short because I don't want too much stem to try to guide my wire up. So I'll thread that little guy on, and again, a U hook at the top of the wire, and pull the head back on that hook to get it to affix. A few more flowers. This miniature carnation in mauve. And the gladiola. I'll do 2 gladiola on 1 wire, and then finish with 1 bloom on the last remaining wire. All right, so here we have the finished corsage. From here, you simply tie a ribbon to that little braided waist. And then that is used to tie it onto the recipient. So once you tie it on the wrist, it's very light, very wearable, and you can style the wires however you like. So you can make whatever size, whatever arrangement, whatever form that you prefer. So let me show you the ways that this simple wire frame can be transformed and used to make a variety of other things. This same wire frame with a longer twisted portion can be wrapped around a cuff base. I like to use a U-glue tab on the top and the bottom, and then I tightly wrap the twisted wired portion of the frame around the cuff, and I can make a cuff corsage like this one that has a lot of movement, really artful, really light, easy to wear. I just love this innovation. This is a big improvement over gluing everything onto a platform on those cuff corsage bases. So in this case, I've glued some materials as well as threaded them onto the wire frame. I made a little platform on one of the ends of the wires just by swirling the end of the wire with my pliers. And I made a little like lily pad to glue this orchid bloom onto. So that's another option with these wire frames. And then you can also finish by gluing in little finishing details, like these tiny little begonia that I just dipped in a little bit of floral adhesive and tucked right into the wire frame. So for me, this is a big improvement because in the past, glued corsages allowed you to make the most artful corsage, but they weren't always the most reliable or durable during wear. This has a wire frame that supports every placement, keeping them all really protected during the whole evening of a prom or a wedding. Next, this same wire frame, cut in half, can create a little armature that you can use to make boutonnieres or pinned corsages. So this is half of that wire frame. It's 5 little arms, and then the braided portion makes up the kind of stem area of the boutonniere. So another very quick, very easy to make, and reliable, long-lasting boutonniere idea. Another idea is making a twisted portion that wraps around the finger twice, and then using the arms to attach your flowers, making a really dynamic, really artful and large ring with all of these floating components. So again, you make this as small or large as you like by extending your wires however you see fit. So this could be a really fun accessory for a wedding or event, or you could stretch it and make it very large for maybe a fashion-forward client or a photo shoot. And last, I want to show you how you take this same frame idea and stretch it to make something even larger. This I love as a headpiece. So this braided portion is slim enough to be pinned into the hair with an alligator clip or with large bobby pins. So I can show you how that looks. So by extending this frame, making the braided section a little bit longer, and then extending your wires, you can make this very simple but very dynamic and artful headpiece. And a piece like this can also be pinned into a cake. I just love how we get so much versatility and options out of a simple roll of wire. So if you liked this idea, I know you will love the rest of the Artful Wedding Personals course. You'll learn how to create 5 innovative and immediately sellable work of art bouquets and a collection of streamlined, modern wedding wearables. This class will transform your approach to bouquets and personal flowers. I just know it. So click the link provided and check out the rest of the course.